Who's actually getting value out of a contractor-grade table saw like this? And who would be better off putting their money toward a smaller benchtop model, or a full-size cabinet? If you're on the fence about spending a few $100s on a saw that promises to stop on skin contact, you probably wonder whether that safety feature is worth the price tag for everyday projects, and whether the 30-inch fence will actually make your cuts feel smoother on a typical home shop bench. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent the last few weeks watching a mix of YouTubers, reading forum threads on woodworking subreddits, and skimming the spec sheets that manufacturers love to put in bold letters. The main tension I keep seeing is between two concerns: safety and workflow. On the safety side, the SawStop system is a game changer for anyone who's ever worried about a slip of the finger. On the workflow side, the 1.75 HP motor and 30-inch premium fence sound impressive on paper, but real-world users keep asking if that power actually translates into clean cuts on dense hardwoods, and whether the fence's smooth operation holds up when you're cutting a series of pieces for a cabinet run. Let's start with the people who will benefit most. If you're a serious hobbyist who already owns a decent jigsaw and a circular saw, but wants a dedicated station for ripping and cross-cutting, this saw hits a sweet spot. The 1.75 HP motor gives you enough torque to handle 2-inch thick hardwood without bogging down, and the 30-inch fence is long enough to support full-width sheet goods without having to set up a separate sacrificial fence. I saw a woodworker on a forum mention that after installing the premium fence, his first 2 cuts on an inch maple panel were dead and straight, which saved him a lot of time aligning the blade and recutting. That's the kind of practical strength you notice when you're pulling a batch of shelves from a single sheet. Another group that should consider this saw are small shop contractors who need a portable but reliable cutting station. The saw's design lets you break it down and move it relatively easily compared to a full-size cabinet saw, yet you still get the safety net of the SawStop brake. In a shop where apprentices are learning the ropes, that safety net isn't just a nice to have, it can be the difference between a close call and a serious injury. The brake activates in about 0.05 seconds, dropping the blade below the skin level, and that speed is backed by the brand's long history of safety testing. For anyone who has a teenager or a friend who's still mastering push strokes, that feature alone can justify the price. Now, who should walk away? If you're a casual DIYer who only cuts occasional 24s for a few home repairs, you'll likely never trigger the safety system, and you might not need a 30-inch fence. In that scenario, a cheaper 1-horsepower benchtop saw will slice through pine and spruce just fine, and you'll save a few $100s. Also, if your shop space is truly cramped, say, you're working out of a garage with only a 4-foot workbench, the 30-inch fence can feel a bit cumbersome. You'll end up having to overhang the fence or set up a makeshift extension, which defeats some of the convenience the premium fence is supposed to provide. A practical weakness that shows up in real-world usage is the saw's dust collection port. The inlet is standard size, but the motor's airflow isn't enough to pull a heavy load of fine sawdust through a long hose without noticeable clogging. If you're planning to run this saw under a wall-mounted dust extractor, you'll need to keep the hose short or accept that you'll have to stop and empty the bag more often than you'd like. That's a trade-off that seasoned woodworkers mention when they compare this model to higher-end cabinet units that integrate a more robust dust extraction system. Another nuance worth noting is the blade change process. The safety brake leaves the blade in a retracted position after activation, which is great for preventing accidental cuts, but it also means you have to manually release the brake lever before you can swing the blade out. For a user who changes blades frequently, say, swapping from a fine tooth for plywood to a rip blade for lumber, that extra step adds a few seconds each time. It's not a deal breaker, but it's an ergonomic detail that shows up when you're on a job site with tight deadlines. Let's talk value beyond the headline specs. The premium fence isn't just a longer rail, it comes with integrated measurement markings that line up with the saw's miter slot, allowing you to set up a cut by simply sliding the fence to the desired inch mark. In practice, That means you can lay a sheet of plywood on the table, line up the fence at 24 inches, and make a perfect rip without pulling a separate measuring tape. A builder I followed on YouTube demonstrated that.